welcome to another episode of How I Like Maths, which is all about how maths can improve our mental and intellectual abilities. My name is Linda. I'm the host of the show. I'm an applied mathematician. I completed a PhD in it. I teach for different universities in Sydney, and I'm also the founder of Bungee Pie, which helps children learn maths using storytelling, fun animations, and real-life application. How I Like Maths is my initiative to populate maths in your society, talk about advantages of doing maths, and introduce great minds in the space of mathematics and its applications. Today, I have a great speaker who is George Papadopoulos. Yes, you got it, Greek name. Who is applied mathematician and maths educator with heaps of knowledge and skills. He's young, but he has a lot of stories to share. He's been working with children and also uni students for quite a while. Before giving you more detail about his background, I would like to ask you to subscribe to our platform and support us. George is Australian with Greek background. He's born in Sydney. He has completed a bachelor degree in advanced mathematics and master degree in applied maths. In 2012, he started a PhD in mathematics education at the University of Sydney. He has also a great teaching experiences working with children and uni students for quite a while. He's fun, so I invite you to listen to him. As a successful maths educator, what's your pain point?
The biggest pain points is when you are restricted by, red tape, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Because ultimately, universities are corporate entities that are designed to turn a profit. Education is a very noble cause, but a university is still a business.
Yeah.
And it still needs to turn a profit. But different universities have different levels of corporatization, right? But in every university, there will be red tape, and there will be bureaucracy. And for young or enthusiastic or really ambitious educators, right, especially in math space, in the math space, it's there's a lot going on in maths education. You can be really limited by the bureaucracy of the department that you work in.
Right.
More so than others, depending upon where you work.
Yeah, I do get that.
That's a big pain point. And so you can't, if you want to become successful as a maths educator, you can't just be good at teaching maths. You need to be good at navigating the corporate space and learning how to manage the limitations that you have, and work within those parameters, right?
Yeah, you're right about that. It's pretty annoying, this bureaucracy and the business aspect of doing education. Originally, I was thinking that university is a place that that business shouldn't be there. I mean, we're here for educating people, and we're here to the science, particularly maths. Right? I thought that this should be a completely free space that you can be creative and you can do all different sorts of stuff. And no one should stop you and say, hey, this is the rules, this is the regulation. Well, we do understand that, the rules and the basic ones, and you don't want to cross that. But it's all about the formatting, and sometimes you don't like some teaching style. Sometimes you like to create different sorts of content and you think it's more useful. But it's just going through all those painful bureaucracy and rules things is piss you off, really simply piss you off.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think that this sort of thing exists everywhere, unless you own your own business, or maybe you work for a local fruit shop or something. Like in general, you work for a large business or a large corporation. This true. Always exists. In any industry, not just education.
Yeah. That's true.
And sometimes it's necessary so that things run smoothly, you know, because, you know, if a 22-year-old maths educator comes along and wants to change this, this, and this, they could potentially, you know, upset 100 years of stability, you know.
That's true.
So sometimes, you know, sometimes these measures are necessary. So, you know, I can understand that as well. I think another massive pain point, which also exists for school teachers, is the amount of hours that are paid versus the amount of hours that you work.
Right.
This is particularly dangerous for casuals. And I honestly, in my opinion, made the mistake of staying in the casual work sector for too long. Right. I now am completely out of the casual work sector, but right. Up until I was a casual worker up until literally April this year. Oh, you know, and I've just turned 35, right? So to give you an idea, so for you know, most of my life since I was what, 12, you know, I've been a casual worker.
Right. Was it your choice, or you just didn't like, or was your choice, or you just didn't have any options?
I think as when I was younger, I may not have had the option, but I think by the time I got into my late 20s or early 30s, I had the options, but I probably just, it was the status quo that I would take casual work from different universities and just, you know, work on a semester by semester basis. I never really, I thought, you know, I won't apply for part-time job until I graduate with my PhD because I'm not eligible. It was a misconception. Right. And now I have 2 fantastic part-time jobs. Right. So I'm effectively working full-time at 2 universities, and I don't need to have had my PhD finished. This is something that I didn't realize.
Yeah. And that's a great thing, I would say, because I know so many PhD students actually got graduated with a PhD in maths, but still struggling so hard to find permanent job or even part-time job, simply because if they're going to apply for a lecturing position, like they're competing with so many people that who are quite experienced in, you know, teaching space. And if they want to go for research positions, again, they're competing with a lot of people with, you know, years and years of research. So they've done a couple of postdocs and they've been moving around. And so I know it's tough. I know that it's tough for so many people, even with PhDs. I think the fact that you've been like doing all those casual things and you've been in the system and then you've improved your knowledge and your skills, and, you know, system knows you and trusts you, and they know that you can handle the you know, teaching sides and also dealing with the students and other things. I think that's a very smart way of doing and finding job, I would say. So yeah,
it worked out all right in the end. I guess that you know, 10 years of casual teaching at the university paid off in the end in terms of experience. So it wasn't time wasted, but it was job insecurity, I guess, and irregularity that really was something that I didn't need to, you know, spend 10 years of my life dealing with.
Yeah, that's true. 10
the
years
thing
is
that's
really
really, sorry?
10 years is pretty
It's a long time. I started lecturing, it's more than 10 years. I started casual teaching for the university when I was 18.
Wow.
Right? So I've been casual teaching for the university since 2005. So that's 16 years, right? If I've done the maths right. Right?
Quite a long time.
16 years in April. It was, yeah. Right. So a long time for, and not to be offered a part-time role was, you know, was not fair. So I'm glad that I'm out of the casual system, because, you know, it's very easy and dangerous to get caught into, especially as a casual lecturer, to get caught into the trap of doing far more hours than you're paid. Some weeks I used to work 40 or 50 hours a week and maybe only be paid, at least on paper, contractually, be paid half of that time, roughly.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Huge commitments. As a casual lecturer, you know, you know, some days I'd be rostered onto work 1, 2, or up to 3 days a week.
Yeah.
But I'd be working 7 days a week, including weekends.
I know. Particularly as a lecturer. I mean, there's so many other things behind the scenes that, probably admin people wouldn't, I wouldn't say they wouldn't recognize it, but probably, they try to ignore it. Or, I don't know, that's my understanding. That might be a different story. But, just emailing around and then, it's just, you get bombarded with so many emails by students, particularly if you're dealing with, you're teaching maths courses. Normally, minimum first year students, 200, 300 students, and you need to deal with that, and if you don't respond, then they're going to start complaining, so you're going to get stuck in other sorts of problems, and who wants to pay for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that casualization is a way in which workers can be exploited to work more than they can. Again, different institutions have different policies, and Sydney University in the last year or so has started to really crack down on underpayment of casuals and making sure that the amount of hours that they work matches with the amount of hours that they get paid. And I'm really pleased to see the university is working in that direction to try and prevent the overworking. But at least, 5 years ago or something, yeah, it would be very common where I would work far more than I was paid, but not necessarily because I was forced to, but maybe because, the demand from the students, like you said, was so high.
Yeah.
And also because maybe I have a very meticulous way of doing things when it comes to teaching maths or marking or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Particularly marking. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. All righty. So that was my pain point. Now let's go back in time. Imagine yourself being 40 years old. What would you tell yourself when you're at that age? Or what would your advice to be? So you're 40 years old age.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can remember exactly where I was and where I was doing mentally at that stage. And I would say that I had my head pretty much screwed on, like I was studying really hard every day. My parents were quite strict with homework. So, I think that, the thing is, the advice that I would give myself, I don't think would be applicable to myself at 14, but it was like, if I had to give advice to my 14-year-old self, it would be, I'm going to give you some advice, but it might not be relevant for another 10 years.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, because I think a lot of the mistakes that I made, which were not detrimental by any means, but a lot of the mistake I made would come, in my 20s, I guess.
Right.
So I guess what I would tell my 14-year-old self is, write these down. They're going to become important, but not quite right, right away.
Right.
I guess one of those pieces of advice, which I've already mentioned actually, is about get out of the casual sector as soon as possible. As soon as you possibly can, instead of working casual jobs, get yourself one part-time job. It's just the security of knowing how much money you're getting paid every week is just a blessing, absolute blessing.
Yeah.
And to be paid the hours that you're working is a blessing.
Right.
Get out of the casual workforce. Absolutely. Just get out of it. I mean, as a person in their 20s, did I have many options for good part-time work? Maybe not, but I might have been able to have found a part-time job at a tutoring college, for example,
Right.
because, I already had teaching experience by the time I was 17,
Right.
So, I think that I could have exited the casualized workforce much earlier than 34 and a half years old.
Right.
So yeah, that's, I guess, one thing I've already mentioned. In terms of study and stuff, I mean, I did pretty much the right things. I don't think I would have any advice other than to say, other than if it's possible that you can go back in time and then the future changes, I wouldn't want to become worse at maths. So I guess my advice would be, whatever you're doing mid maths, keep on going and maybe do extra if you can.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're going to become a great maths educator.
Right.
You know, but if the future can't change, I guess I don't need to give any advice there. I don't know. I think, you know, the advice that I would give myself is not academic advice. And two really big pieces of advice that I would give myself is, number one is I didn't make enough time for physical training, for physical exercise and physical, like, don't get me wrong, I cycled, you know, every now and then and stuff like that.
Right.
But as controversial as this is going to sound, I would have given advice to, as soon as feasibly possible, maybe from the age of 16 and above, to start weight training.
Right.
Because I feel that an academic life where I did very little exercise, I did do some cardio. I did, like I said, I occasionally did cycling, I occasionally did swimming and stuff, but this is all of that. I did kung fu. All this stuff is really cardio, right?
Yeah.
All of any exercise I did was very little, and when I did it, it was all cardio.
Right.
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice I would give is, as soon as you are, you know, ethically allowed to start weight training, start weight training.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, even if it's just one day a week,
yeah,
it would make such a huge difference. And that's a big regret. Yeah. That I can't, and I can never change that, because your body develops during that time. And if you don't lift heavy things and do physical labor, which I didn't do, then your body doesn't develop that muscular strength.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that I really regret, honestly, is with regards to relationships, in particular romantic relationships. So, I mean, this is a little bit on the personal side, but you asked, and it's important advice. So I'm 35 and I'm single, not married, no kids. No kids. I'm proud to have no kids. You know, I don't want to have kids. But I wanted to be married, you know, and in love and all that, and not settle down, but like, you know, that comfort of knowing that I had a partner since I was 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know, so for more than 20 years, I've had relationships on and off since then.
Yeah.
But for 20 years, I still haven't achieved what I wanted when I was 13.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
and I think actually this is quite personal, and I do get that, but I think this is a trap for a lot of academics that I know and I've met and I've talked to. Simply, one is because of the work, another is because, you know, they're fairly ambitious and they like to move around and sort of they get stuck in that trap of, you know, this work and research and positions, and sometimes they don't have that stability that they want to, so they start moving around, change countries, change continents, and that means time you need to spend for, and somehow we sort of, you know, lose our ability to compromise which one is better, or priority, and somehow it's been like work and research, this is the number one priority in our life, and then that comes to relationships and family and things like that. So I've seen it like I wouldn't say it's kind of, you know, pandemic for academic, you know, people, but I've seen it a lot actually.
I have to say that for me, it's been the opposite problem, actually.
Right.
I, in general, put my relationships as number one, and then my study number two.
Right.
In general. So like, I have always, like, when I was younger, I was always sort of in a relationship ever since like I was like 18.
Right.
You know,
right.
Ever since I was 18, I was in a relationship somewhere or another. But I think the mistakes that I made are not particular to academics. They're just life mistakes. And, you know, like, for example, my first girlfriend, I was with her for 6 years, and then I met another girl and I was with her for 3.5 years, you know, and then there was a period of break in between. If you add those up, that's, you know, 10 years.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the end of that second relationship that didn't work, I looked back at my life and 10 years is gone. That's maybe, you know, 1/7 or 1/8 of my lifetime. Gone. You know, not to say that it was wasted, because I did other things with my life. I worked, I studied, and stuff like that. But again, if I think about my mission started when I was 13, you know, that's kind of, you know, something that I get. So going back to my 14-year-old self, I was, you know, I was very much aware of this mission when I was 14.
So tell me about that. Do you think just the maths stuff, or you know, the academic world, or this study things, you think this has been contributing to this factor, or you think this is literally you or your?
No, this is just a personal thing. Like, at the end of the day, I think I didn't know or understand enough about relationships or dynamics with relationships between people. And that led me to make poor decisions about whether someone is right or not right for me in terms of what they fit with my lifestyle. And that's led to, I guess, wasted time from the relationship aspect point of view.
All right.
That's probably the most important thing, detrimental thing that's happened in my life that could have been avoided maybe. But, you know, as an 18-year-old or 24-year-old, I don't have the knowledge that I have now, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard it a lot from different people, that whatever we actually need in life to know, we don't get it from school. We don't learn it from
and the thing is, my parents really didn't help me in this regard, to be honest with you. You know, they had their own messed up relationship, you know. You know, not to say that they weren't happy, but they had circumstances when they were younger which meant that, you know, they married very late in life, you know. And so I don't think that they were in a position to give me advice, and they certainly didn't really give me much advice, and some of the advice that they gave me was actually very harmful advice, you know, and I ended up just, you know, doing everything myself, you know, working things out myself. But
I do.
Anyway, I guess I'm, you know, I'm still alive, so nothing terrible, I guess.
I guess, but the know that you're not the only one, and there's so many people that messed that up, and there's stuff that up because they literally didn't have the knowledge and the skills, or didn't have that good parenting things, or the school things didn't help that much. So, you know, it's I think is at least you can feel a little bit better that, okay, I'm not alone in this race or game, whatever you call it. Alrighty, so the last thing for you would be to do with your ritual. So anything you do particularly, I mean, on a daily basis, it's kind of your routine that you think you got benefit out of that, and you think, you know, that could be taken by somebody else.
I do have a routine that I've tried to start in the last couple of months. And I'm not calling it a routine until I can commit to it for like a year, right? But the routine that I have sort of started on, which has been very, very beneficial, is to basically pick a time. And that when I say pick a time, not randomly, you need to think carefully about that time and plan it. But, you know, if you're a mathematician, then that's easy to do. You know, you need to pick a time whereby at that time you turn off all technology.
Have a quiet moment.
No, when I say turn off all technology, don't get me wrong. Like, I still, like I'll use, for example, you know, the microwave. I'm allowed to use the microwave and the fridge.
I do get that.
I mean,
phone, internet, not internet.
yeah, your phone, basically,
laptop.
yeah, your computer, your computers, phone, internet, stuff like that. Yeah. Basically anything
TV.
has a TV, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, TV.
So for me, it's about 8:30 p.m.
8:30.
Right? 8:30 p.m. I turn off the TV, the computer, and on my phone and my watch, I put on do not disturb. I turn my phone over so I can't even see the screen.
Right.
And I put on to charge.
Right.
And for the next hour, I do not use any any technology at all.
Yeah.
At all.
What benefit you get out of, you know, turning off?
Well, look, I mean, you know, you can research this. You know, there's some people that say that you should do this 4 hours before going to bed, but I would literally die. Because I work at night. You know, I used to work until midnight, you know, and now I've changed my work habits, and I do get less work done now because of this.
Right.
But I think it's better for my health. But the science shows that you need to unwind your mind. It's your eyes and your mind, but it's more so your mind. You need to unwind your mind.
Yeah.
As you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
So the other thing you should not do is exercise right before sleep.
Right. Yeah, because it then gives you more energy there.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow you to sleep properly.
Like 1 or even if you can 2 hours before bed is to turn off technology. And like, I think for me, I live alone. I don't have any brothers or sisters. I don't have a partner. You know, my parents are deceased, and my stepmother is living in Queensland, and you know, 3/4 of my family is in Greece.
Right.
And then the only family I have actually blood relatives in Sydney is an hour away from me. So I'm very isolated.
Right.
So that 1 hour from 8:30 to 9:30-ish, that sort of time is very, very quiet. It's very scary. Right. But for me, that's a time where I'll tidy up some things, you know, like I'll put the heater on and maybe I'll have a snack, like not a heavy meal, but, you know, like some yogurt or some fruit or some vegetables or some nuts, something like that. Yeah. You know, that might take up some time, or, you know, maybe, you can shave, brush your teeth, you know, stuff like that. And then, you know, like, I think if people have people around them, like if they have family or, you know, a partner, then the time passes very quickly because you can talk with that person, you can play Monopoly or something, you know. Yeah. You know, you can do that, or you can just talk, you know, or you know, or lie down or whatever. But when you're alone, it's very difficult to, especially when you use technology for everything, for play and work, it's very difficult to do that. But what I've found helpful is just to find a few things, like if you need to tidy up, you know, do the dishes, you can do that in that last hour. Yeah. All right. It's like a kind of semi-meditation kind of thing. It is, because it's very, very quiet. Very quiet. And everything very quiet. No, I do. And then what I do is I go to bed and I will read a book, or I'll read some anime, not anime, manga. Right. And I have like a e-reader, which is not like a screen, you know, it's like a digital ink. Right. If you know that one. Yeah. You know, so I'll read a book or read a manga, you know, and then just go to sleep around 9:30, 10 o'clock sort of thing. All right. And then I wake up sometime between 5:30 and 6:30 sort of thing. Right. Yeah. So obviously, you know, if you wake up later, then, you know, you would go to bed later, but that's the sort of idea is, you know, but just 1 hour before at least 1 hour, if not 2 hours, before you go to bed, just turn off technology and your notifications and make sure you just do not check your phone at all.
Yeah. Alrighty. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Something that really surprises a lot of students, or everyone that I tell that knows anything about maths education, I still to this day don't know how to do long division.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How come?
So yeah, and that's the story. That's my story.
Right.
Because I had a very troubled, despite doing so well at school, I had a very troubled upbringing with my biological mother. She had a very nomadic lifestyle, and so I changed schools on average once a year.
Wow, this is a lot.
Even interstate. Yeah, so I had a very broken education.
Wow.
My mother was actually an educator herself. She was an English teacher in Greece when she was younger, before she came to Australia. So, I mean, being academically well performed is running in my family. But, and she tried to homeschool me when I was little, before I went to primary school. And for that reason, I was even accelerated in year 1 and year 2, you know. You know, so like I wasn't a genius, but I was always good at school. But despite that, I had a very tumultuous education where, because of my mother's mental illness and her nomadic behavior, I was always changing schools. So I had a very disrupted childhood in education. And so, and then, and my education was so disruptive that even in 1 year, I remember attending 2 different schools in one academic year. And in year 6, like when I was, you know, and I'd moved from the New South Wales system to the Queensland system, so that was already disruptive. And in year 6, I actually, my mother and I were homeless for 3 months.
No way.
So I missed out on 3 months, which was term 3 of year 6. And then I finished the last term of term 6 and graduated when I left my mother and I went to live with my father and my stepmother. Yeah. So my mother and father have passed away since then. My stepmother, though, is still doing well, but like I said, she lives in Queensland. But yeah, and
it's very tough for a kid.
Yeah, it was tough. And anyway, that's the reason why I don't know long division. There might be other things that I don't know. There's a lot of things with English grammar that I was not familiar with as well, that I missed out on when I was, because of that. But in mathematics education, I think the only thing that I missed out on was long division. Having said that, I can do polynomial long division. I can do long division of polynomials, but I can't do long division of integers.
Wow.
Yeah, so I couldn't do like 376 divided by 12, for example.
Do you want me to teach you?
Like what I have to do is reduce the fraction so that the 12 turns into a 6 and then do short division. Right? Now, here's the thing, right? Yeah, and that, exactly what you said. Other people have said to me, including my students, would you like me to and you know something, if I learned short division, I wouldn't have this, sorry, if I learnt long division, I wouldn't have this story to tell you and to tell others.
Right. That's actually a very interesting story, like being quite successful mathematics educator. So,
you know, like those rags to riches story. I mean, this is not quite the same, but it really is the omission of long division of integers in my upbringing, in my education, is it's a sign, or it's a scar, but it has a story attached to it, and the story is worth more than the knowledge itself.
I do get it.
So yeah, I and it's a reminder, because I work in math support, and I've worked in math support for 10 years now, that everyone has a story, and the reason why they might not be able to differentiate or know what y equals e to the x looks like without consulting a calculator or whatever. There's a reason behind that, and there's a reason why I can't do long division, and there's a very good reason. You know, actually, there isn't a really good reason, because I could teach myself if I wanted to, but
Yeah.
You know,
but
it's
I
a story that I love to tell, and
Yeah.
I don't. If
And
I
I
teach
think
myself
it's a
one
pretty good
division,
one, and thanks for sharing it, because I think they're very valuable, and thank you for being quite vulnerable and you know, show that aspect of life
yeah.
as well.
Well, because the students can. I don't want students to, or anyone. I don't want people to get this idea that, you know, I'm so successful now and I've always been successful. No, it's like I had a pretty tough upbringing when I was young.
Yeah.
Not as tough as a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, I still was very lucky that, you know, I had a dad and stepmom that I could live with.
Yeah.
You know, and they took me in when they
Yeah.
might not have wanted to, if they wanted to have their own children or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
after my biological parents divorced.
Right.
But I was very lucky in that respect. But I don't know why. Maybe it was because of my biological mother's, you know, passion for education, you know, despite the circumstances that we lived in.
Right.
And
I think
you
you
know,
come
when she
from
was younger.
do you think it's also related to Greek culture as well, because they've been valuing education and science and maths?
Yeah, I
They've
guess so. I mean,
initiated so many things, particularly in maths. So do you think
I think
somehow
it's
related?
like I said to you, it's not just Greek culture, it's everyone except for white people. I hate to say it. It sounds so racist, but it's true. Like almost everyone in the world values mathematics above and beyond, you know. So I don't think it's just Greek culture. I think that almost all non really white Anglo cultures really value mathematics. So yeah, that's anyway, that's my little story. I hope that it inspires other people that are really having a tough life to keep pursuing their dreams of education.
No, I think it's very valuable and very inspiring as well. You know, having all those sorts of difficulties, and I'm pretty much sure it's been quite a tough time for you as a kid. It's very hard to handle that, but with all of that, you've been managed to be quite good at it and being very successful. And now you can share that story and inspire students that, hey, I went through that. If I could handle it, you can do it as well. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything interesting related to maths that you would like to share with us, please email me on info@bungeepie.com.au. I would be more than happy to read through your comments or your suggestions. Please don't forget to support us by subscribing to our platforms. Thank you.